Hey, welcome back to the Branding for Abundance podcast. This is your host, Dr. TK, clinical psychologist and #1 therapist business coach. So I am super excited. We have a very special guest, another epic mental health therapist in the Dope Therapist community. So we are going to hear an interview from Anita. She is a clinical professional counselor intern in Las Vegas, Nevada. She is also a full spectrum doula. And y'all, she's certified as a childbirth educator. Anita specializes in helping the BIPOC, BIPOC birthing individuals who are experiencing pregnancy after infant loss. Anita utilizes techniques such as Brainspotting and EMDR to help her clients through their transition. She provides mental health services to women struggling with depression and anxiety during their pregnancy, gender disappointment, infant loss, pregnancy after infant loss, and postpartum. I cannot wait to get into this podcast episode. Stay tuned. All right, so welcome back to the Branding for Abundance podcast. This is Dr. TK, and I am super excited because we have yet another awesome therapist. So this episode is going to be a little bit different. If you've heard any of the past episodes, I've been inviting therapists from various states and also therapists that have been in my coaching programs to come and talk about their specialty, their niche in the mental health field, and how they've been able to grow and expand not just their clinical practice, but also other streams of income. So I want to welcome Anita to the podcast, and this will be streamed video and audio. So welcome, Anita, to the podcast for the first time.
Thanks for having me.
So let's go ahead and jump into it. Can you let them know where you are located and like license type, a little bit about you?
Yeah, so I'm Anita Mamodu. I am in Las Vegas, Nevada. I am licensed in the state of Nevada. I am a clinical professional counselor intern. Yeah. I'm also a full spectrum doula, and I'm a certified childbirth educator.
Nice. She loaded, y'all. She loaded. All right. So one of the things I hope that you heard, especially if you are not done with your licensure for those therapists that are watching, because we have two different groups of people who either watch these videos or tune into the audio podcast, which are therapists and then general public. And so some therapists sometimes don't want to even start their business or expand their ideas in their business because they are not all the way done. But we're going to hear from you today how you've been doing so many things even before that first milestone of the finish line, that some people wait on. So this is always a fun question that I ask first is, how did you get into the mental health field? Like, how did you choose counseling?
So that's a very good question. My route originally was to become a midwife, but in undergrad, I was 2 classes away. And then my track coach was like, you got to pick. Is either you do nursing or you stick with track. Yeah. And I'm like, well, you're paying for my school, so I guess I have to switch everything over. Right. So I was like, okay, whatever. When I'm done, I'll do a master's program to become a nurse. But that didn't end up working out. But I had a goal. I said I had to be in school 1 year after I graduated. So I had already been working with my aunt who had an agency here, a mental health agency in Nevada. So I was like, I'm already working in this field. I'm already helping the therapist. So why don't I go to school and just do what they're doing? And that's what got me into the field of mental health.
It's always interesting how psychology falls in some of our laps. Like mine is similar, but it's just interesting. I just chose psychology because it looked like a subject that was awkward. Like I had never heard of it in high school. We didn't have the luxury in my high school of having those classes like they do now. And then when I took one of the courses in my undergrad, I liked that class because I didn't get it initially because I'm a very studious person. So I said, it's not hard, but it's intriguing. So I'm just going to take more classes. And then that's how I ended up in psychology. Crazy. So thanks for sharing that. And so I know that you currently do a lot of clinical work in Las Vegas right now. Who do you serve primarily in your practice? And can you talk to us about the work that you do with them?
Yeah. So currently I work a lot with moms, and crazy enough, a lot of the moms I work with, some of them, their kids are physically not here. They may have experienced a miscarriage, stillbirth, abortion, or I have other moms who are pregnant after infant loss, or those who are experiencing pregnancy, but, they have gender disappointment, or they're not connecting with this pregnancy and they're like, what is wrong with me? Depression, anxiety, rage. And then also moms in that postpartum period of, okay, well, who am I? Like, I don't feel like I'm that same person I was before I got pregnant. Or everybody says, oh, when you have a baby, it's going to be, easy. I'm going to just connect with this child. And they're like, I don't know who this child is. I can't connect. Can you help me?
Wow. So you work with moms, not just moms for therapy, but you work all the way with moms, which is, let me just pivot a little bit and insert this, because this actually came up on one of our coaching calls. And so for the viewers and the listeners, Anita's part of my Elite Coaching Mastermind. And out of our cohort, we literally have only 3 students who never did Dope Therapist Academy for private practice. And it's always interesting for me to look at their progress in their private practice when they come on board, because in Elite Coaching, we're talking about scaling your business and adding streams of income beyond a solo practice, right? And so when you came on board, it was actually my first time meeting you in a virtual webinar, and I didn't even see you. You just signed up and I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And so as a gift that we gave her, because we had found, we found out that she was also, close to the licensure point, and we were like, oh, come to our DTA cause. And so the reason I'm bringing this up to the viewers and the listeners is when she was in one of our Elite Coaching calls, we were talking about hot seat questions. And man, I just felt the soul burn when everybody found out what you did and you didn't say it outright. And the reason I'm having this conversation is because this is a very big topic in which of the population you serve. But it's a big topic that people are not talking about in terms of being a woman, being a professional woman for some of us, going through some of that loss, whether it be for ourselves or with ourselves and or a child, and a doula. You have so many, you're sitting on a pot of gold, in terms of how you can truly dive deep, even beyond the typical therapeutic work. And so when I had her speak up and unmute herself on this coaching call, boy, oh boy, did everybody unmute themselves and low-key in a loving way tear her a new one, because let me just ask her, how did that feel when everybody found out what you did? What was your experience when they found out what you did for a living?
I think for me, it did 2 things for me. It kind of was almost like that aha moment that, wait a second, you wanted to go to school to be a midwife and you wanted to be in this field, but you thought when you got to this mental health side that, oh, you can't do it anymore. But no, you're still in that same field you wanted. So that came to me. I was like, okay, wait, hold on. I am doing what I really wanted to do in the first place. Yeah. And then for everybody else to pour into me and say, what are you doing? First of all, no, that's not what you should charge. You need to charge a whole lot more. And, and say, hey, you have this pot of gold that I didn't even realize I was sitting on. You just have to be able to, 1, become confident about it. And 2, be able to say, okay, where are my population? Where are they? And make sure that I'm focusing towards them and that they will come and they will have no problem paying the fees that I charge.
Right. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about your practice. Can you share the history? How did you get into private practice? And then what has that journey been like for you?
I have been in private practice since I got my intern license. Before, I was working with my own agency, and I have been consulting with a lot of other agencies, helping them out in numerous ways. But I said agency is not where I want to be. Right. I would rather, be in the private practice realm to be able to focus more on the therapy. Yeah. Because here in agencies, it's more of, okay, well, let's get them the whole wraparound care, which is wonderful, but they always leave the therapy on the back burner. And I'm like, we need that therapy to be able to help them. Right. And then, of course, everything else should be an add-on to the therapy, not, therapy is an add-on to everything else.
Right. That's good. And then I know that when we were talking, when we first met, you were initially doing a lot of, I'm going to say the word documentation, but there were a lot of things in collaboration with, was it a medical physician or was he a psychiatrist?
He's a psychologist.
Psychologist. Okay. Okay. And again, I'm just digging deeper in this particular interview because I think it's just always so cool. Because I have a lot of grad students who've recently graduated or those who are sitting for the licensing exam, but they're really, really timid. I'm not going to say scared because I don't know, but it just seems like when they talk about the desire to be where you are right now in terms of taking the leap of faith, knowing exactly what you want, not stopping, not giving up, working in the desired environment that you want, working with your ideal clients. A lot of therapists or to be licensed therapists are not going to throw in the towel like that and like go all in. And so how or at what moment in your life did you choose to specifically work with women? Because you have a super, super niche down population.
Mm-hmm. Interesting story. It was actually when I became pregnant with my daughter. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, I was looking and seeing the clients who started becoming attracted to me were other individuals who were pregnant, who were having challenges, just like I was having my own challenges through my own pregnancy. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, wait a second. Okay, what's going on here? Mm-hmm. Like everybody was just becoming attracted to me. And it wasn't even advertising any of the stuff. Like my first doula client was my son's birth mom. And I wasn't technically her doula. I was just there through the birth, helping her, coaching her through it. Mm-hmm. And, I was like, oh, this is interesting. Got the little work. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to do nothing with it. I just, I just did it just to help. And then, then I said, and it was still scary. Don't get me wrong to say, okay, this is the population I want to work with. Mm-hmm. But between working with you and then the hot seats where everybody poured into me, I said, okay, let me go for real all into this population. Mm-hmm. And now I have insurance companies who every week are sending me my ideal population.
So let me ask, you said that it was scary to work with that population. Are you referencing that it was scary to niche down that much? Because I know that that's where some therapists, they're like, I don't want to niche down that much because some people feel like they may be giving away referrals. And I know that in one of our calls, and we did it in the thread, a lot of the DTA community, along with Elite Coaching, poured into you in regards to transitioning off of a panel that was not serving your practice too.
Yeah.
So did want to speak to that because what I'm noticing is a trend is clearly you had the skill set and the desire to serve this population, whether you knew it or not. And then when you got around, I'm going to say like-minded people that were also cheerleaders for you to win because they're winning, like it just wakes you up, which feels good. Mm-hmm. Being a therapist myself, it feel good. And so, so tell us, how is it to have your own children and have a business and your population is, you kind of like looking at yourself in the mirror to some degree?
Yeah. So, my journey to motherhood is a lot different than, the common journey. Mm-hmm. I first became a mother through my son who's adopted. Okay. And, having to learn all those things and know, okay, I'm going through these things, but can I go through this? Because I didn't really give birth to him. Am I allowed to go through this? Mm-hmm. And then the surprise pregnancy of my daughter during the pandemic. And I'm like, okay, wait a second. This is kind of all crazy going on here. And then I was having clients come in. And the first client that came in, she was legit a reflection of me. Wow. And so I had to take that step back and say, okay, wait a second, because what I'm feeling, I can't project to her. Yeah. I need to be here and hold space for her and what she needs in this time period. Mm-hmm. So it was one of those things where, I had to do a lot of work my own self and saying, okay, what do I need to do? Who can I go get help from? Mm-hmm. And that's when I saw that, hold on, there's not that many people in my area that look like me. Yeah. Who can understand what I'm going through and can help me. Mm-hmm. And that's where the light bulb kind of turned on a little bit. Yeah. But I was like, wait a second, is this going to be okay if I dive, straight into this? Mm-hmm. But it's been great since I focused on it.
It's even interesting that narrative of when you go and seek help in our field, especially if you are a provider and you realize that there's a gap, you technically have, a few choices. A potential client or ourselves can say, well, I'm just not going to seek therapy, right now or at all. Or you can go to a therapist who may not be able to help your entire problem, maybe only a portion because of their specialty. Or you can do one of, like, preferably get help, but then also learn how to fix the gap, which is what it sounds like you did. You got the help, but you also realize I'm going to be the gap. And I think that's so phenomenal, because that's one of the things that, in terms of like coaching therapists, that's one of the things that I highlight the most, like, because most therapists say, how can I stand out? You know, it's a lot of therapists that work with women. It's a lot of therapists who work with women of color. But what's going to make you stand out is sometimes when you do have to niche it down or be very particular with what are their presenting problems, you know. And then one of the things that I just can't walk away from, that I have to say, because the general public is watching, or they are listening to these episodes. And as a therapist, we're here to let you know that it is very important for us that we have to get our own mental health, especially if it's going to impact the population that we serve. And we have to be in tune with, if we're getting triggered, ethically, we're supposed to refer the client out and not even take on that client, or if we're, you know, currently seeing them and it becomes an issue ethically with projecting out what we feel inside, then we need to help them find another therapist. And that may not feel the greatest, especially if you are this client that needs to be transferred out, but it's for the sake of your mental health, because we can't be objective, right?
Exactly.
And at any time that can happen. Like, look at grief and loss. You know, look at last year. A lot of things change. You either became a mom, or people, lost themselves. And sometimes that impacts your mental health, you know? So I'm so happy that you said that, because there are a lot of things that I think the general public needs to hear about what we need to do to make sure that they're taken care of, which means that we got to take care of ourselves. So I thank you for sharing that, because that is huge. And so let's pivot. Let's talk about this epic private practice and like more into business. What are, beyond private practice, and I know you do the doula work, what are some of the things that you've been working on that go beyond a traditional therapist job of just doing private practice?
Well, right now I like to call myself the present parent, because my husband is off on deployment. So, you know, a lot of my times, a lot of my times is, you know, I have to be here with my kids and, you know, be present and focus and play around with them. So that's a big thing that I have going on right now. But other than that, I am also working on a few other things behind the scenes, a few things on the horizon. A big thing is a childbirth education course that I'm working on, since I am a childbirth educator.
Nice.
But this is specifically for those people of color who are experiencing pregnancy after infant loss. Because,
can you explain that for the listeners, just in case they may not know what that means? Because I know we've talked about it in detail.
So pregnancy after infant loss is a woman, birthing individual, however you identify yourself, who has lost a child through either stillbirth, miscarriage, abortion, you had to medically terminate, or any other way, SIDS, any way that you could have lost a child. And now you're pregnant again, and you have all this anxiety. You don't know what to do. You're going to these doctors, and, you know, for us people of color, we don't always get heard from the doctors.
Right.
And we're just sitting here like, okay, am I going to be able to have this child this time? Is this going to happen again? What do I do? Do I have choices? And this class is to tell you, number one, yes, you have choices. You make the decisions. And it's also to help us be able to honor the baby in our heart, the baby in our tummy, because there's nothing wrong with embracing the pregnancy you do have right now. And at the same time, you know, honoring the child that you did lose. The child is always there. You're always carrying that baby in your heart, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's healthy ways for us to grieve through it, which through this course, we will learn different ways to grieve, and we'll also learn how to connect more with the baby in our belly.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely want you to break that down, because somebody may be listening like, well, what is that? You know, and we don't want them to guess. Of course, we're going to share with everyone who's viewing or listening on the podcast, how do you find out about these amazing services? Because as you mentioned, she's hinting that some things are going to be dropping very soon. So based off of when we even release this episode, it may already be out, maybe not, but you can still check out her information. And so as we expound upon like business, Let me ask, how did you find out about the webinar that I was having? Because that is how we got connected, is via a platform that we couldn't even see each other. Well, you could see me,
Yeah.
but I couldn't see you.
Yeah. Honestly, last year I was like, I needed a change. I was like, is this going to work for me as far as therapy? I was like, something had to change because it wasn't working for me. Mm-hmm. And, I was on Instagram just searching and getting at different groups and things like that. And all of a sudden you have popped up an ad for your webinar. And I clicked it and I was like, oh, this looks interesting. And I went and just added you on Instagram. Mm-hmm. Then I think it was like 2 or 3 days later, I'm seeing you in Vegas. I'm like, wait, what is she doing in Vegas? What's going on in Vegas? I'm like,
yeah, so we had a live event during the great pandemic.
Yeah. And then I was just seeing all the posts that you were having for this event. And I'm like, okay, where is this thing again, that the ad for this webinar? Let me go see what this is about. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting on the webinar and I was downstairs. My husband was upstairs. And I was just listening. And when it was done, I went upstairs. I was like, I need to get in this program. Mm-hmm. He's like, I was listening to this lady. You need to get in the program. Here, take my credit card. You need to go sign up like right now.
Listen, so let me actually just pause there, because one of the things that I highly focus on, hence the name of my podcast, the name of my company, is branding for abundance. And most people don't even know what that means. I mean, you can look up the word abundance like prosperity, but the definition of abundance is to have a large quantity of something. It doesn't have to be money, but I really value time. We talk about time, especially as parents, as mothers, blended families, wives, partners, and business owners. And so, I want to let the listeners and viewers know, like, this is another thing that we unintentionally, but intentionally cover in our programs, because our personal life can impact clearly our business life if it is not in a good space. And the reason I am mentioning this is because when we make a business investment, the goal would be that we consult with the people who are also going to be impacted by our investment, because our investment means that we have to put time somewhere else. We have to move our funds, even if it is in your business. You got to move your funds in another place. And I even did a podcast episode, like, make sure your partner is on board when you sign up for a program, because this program is 11 months. We graduate in November, but it's 11 months. And so are they with you even growing your business and scaling it? And what does that mean for your family in a good way? So I'm so happy that you mentioned that. I mean, because I'm sure there's somebody out there that's watching or listening, and they may say something like, oh, I don't need to tell them nothing. It's my business. Like, I'm just going to swipe the card. And I'm like, but you're going to be giving up hours, in your house. And so, okay, so now I do remember you mentioning, I remember it on Instagram. You're like, oh, I can't wait till you come back. Like, to Vegas. And so I was like, who is this? Like, I didn't know who you were. Like, come on down. And so, yeah, we were out there for a dang on pop-up event. So anyway, so yes, you came to the webinar, and then you learned about, for those of you who are wondering what the heck was this webinar, it will be coming up in the summer. I'll give more information later, but it was in a gist teaching therapists the difference between growth and scale. Because I believe most entrepreneurs, even therapists, we use the word growth and scale interchangeably, and they're totally different. Yeah. So grow is where you were even before you came to the program. You were growing your business. You were making money, and you have multiple businesses, even outside of mental health. You got a family business. Hello. And then you wanted to scale. Scale is you leverage your time so you can spend more time with your kids and earn more while working less. That is scaling, people. And so briefly tell the viewers, what was your practice like before getting help with grow and scale? Because you kind of did both, because we gave you access to DTA. But what was your business like before? And then what is it like now? Like, what are some of your wins?
Well, so before, I did have a group practice last year. I had one, it was functioning. I had people in all these seats, but for some reason I was still also in these seats as well.
Tell them what seats are, because they like, what is a seat?
So I had somebody who was in charge of doing all the billing for everything. Mm-hmm. I had an individual who was over the entire group practice, meaning they were in charge of hiring the therapists, the PSR workers, everything that you needed. That was their job in charge of.
Okay.
But for some reason, I was still doing all these things and I wasn't able to see clients. And I was like, this doesn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I need to change.
Mm-hmm.
Then on top of that, I had the family business that we had just purchased like a month before everything shut down. Wow. So we were over here trying to figure that all thing out too. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm being pulled in multiple directions. Then we hear my husband's going to get deployed. And I'm like, how am I going to now legit do all of this? Mm-hmm. And, you know, then you pop up.
Yeah, this is real talk. I'm glad you're sharing this because this is what happens in real life that we don't publicize on social media. Life changing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So then I sat, you know, I did DTA and of course with Elite Coaching as well. And I said, okay, things got changed. I can't be the person who's doing the billing. I can't be the person who's overseeing what you're supposed to be doing over here. So I had to switch and move a lot of things. Mm-hmm. So I started focusing on my private practice, which I always had, but I wasn't really focusing on it because I was being pulled in too many different directions.
Yeah.
So I'll say for my wins, I'm on an insurance panel as an intern. Mm-hmm. You know, interns, you can get on insurance panels. You just need to check your states and see which insurance panels. And that insurance panel, they send me my ideal client every week. I get 2 to 3 every week coming in, new people. Mm-hmm. I remember on our first call, you had asked me, well, what do you want your schedule to look like? Mm-hmm. And I was like, honestly, if I could see 12 to 15 people a week, that's good. Every week, I see 12 to 15 people.
Oh my God, I'm getting chills inside.
It's consistent, 12 to 15. And they know what my schedule is. So they don't even say, well, can you come on a Monday? No, I don't work on Mondays. Mm-hmm. I'm here Wednesday through Friday. Nice. And I'm only here, you know, at my certain times. And, you know, if you miss that week, then you got to wait till the next time of your week.
Look at those boundaries. Come through boundaries.
Yeah. And it's funny because a client called me yesterday and she said, hey, you know, I have this work situation. I know if I change my day and somebody else takes it, that I'm going to have to lose the day and have to refigure it out. I didn't even have to tell her. She told me. She understood.
Love it. Oh my God, that is good. Nice. Let me ask, because I didn't really go into detail because some of the students who are in Elite and did DTA, they did some previous podcast episodes. And so what can you, because I know you're also newer to the group. And so what can you see as the difference between DTA and Elite? Because some students who are in DTA, if they haven't listened to me talk about Elite, they really don't know what the difference is. So what have you seen that's like maybe one of the main differences between the two different groups?
Other than extra stream of incomes, I would say the most important thing, and I think I told you in one of our calls that like hit me, was that you needed to make sure you had people to help you as you're trying to scale. Mm-hmm. Meaning you can have all these extra incomes or extra streams of income, but if you're the one who's doing A to Z for each of these streams of income, you're not scaling, you're just growing. Mm-hmm. You need somebody to sit there and be that buffer between you and the business. Yeah. And that's what I've got with that family business. I have a buffer. So not everything always comes 100% to me. Right. It goes to the buffer. And then it comes to me at a later time when I'm available.
Yeah, I love that seat. So as we wrap up, what I do want to do, I'm going to ask that you share how can people find where you are. I'm going to actually add on your Instagram so that people can find you. So make sure that everybody heads over to her Instagram, check her out, but I will let her tell you some of the things that she has on the marketplace right now. And then just keep in mind that she's going to have some stuff drop soon. So do you want to share some of the things that you have to offer?
Yeah. So I am available to be a doula. I can help anybody worldwide. We're in the virtual space. I can help you virtually in whatever instance you need, meaning, you know, if you've just experienced an infant loss and you need a doula, or if you're pregnant and you're just trying to come up with your birth plan, vision plan, postpartum, you're in that postpartum period, I'm also able to help you in that realm as a doula. Of course, I have therapy here in Nevada.
Right.
And then I have my childbirth ed coming up. So make sure you check both my Instagram at UDOMOMHW, or also my website, udomom.com. So that's UDOMOM.com.
So I'm just going to go ahead and tack this on because I don't know if people recognize what they see on the screen. We had this conversation in one of your, I think it was a second coaching call. I was like, oh, you about to get this URL today. So for those of you who see the screen, if you're on the podcast, you'll have to go over to the Instagram. But do you want to share with them where your name came from? Because some people clearly see the word mom in there, but they may think you kind of made that up. So you want to share?
Yeah. So Udamom is actually my last name spelled backwards. And it really came to me from my sister, because in high school, nobody will call her name. They'll always say, hey, Udamom, Udamom. And, when we were niching down, I was like, wait a second, that works for my population, right? Udamom.
Right. So yeah, I'm like, things fall right in place where they are supposed to be. And so I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us on this video and audio podcast. I really hope that the viewers, whether you are a therapist, whether you are a woman, a mom, or any of the other characteristics that she has mentioned in terms of tapping into our womanhood and also motherhood, or maybe of women who would benefit from her services. Correct me if I'm wrong, the doula, they only have to be in Nevada, or can they be in other states?
They can be anywhere in the world.
Okay. I did want to mention that because we typically give a disclaimer, and you pretty much mentioned it with therapy, that she can see you if you're in Nevada for mental health services. And you do telehealth or office?
I do both.
Okay. So, because some people don't do telehealth, so I just want to ask, we in different times. And so, so make sure that you check her out. You check out her Instagram. I'm sure that'll lead you to her website. We'll make sure to get all of her links so that you can directly access it on the bottom of this episode. And again, I want to thank you so much for being a guest, but y'all go check her out, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye.